Today, Canada's head coach Jesse Marsch addressed the media just about an hour ago. He had a lot to say, but of course, everyone waiting with bated breath to get the update on Moise Bombito and Ishmael Kone, and here's what he had to say.
Ishmael's was a hilarious response in the Canadian media to almost nothing. He just felt a little sick, and so we sent him home because we were doing nothing on the day, and it was like, you know, a 5-star red alert. Ishmael trained today. He's totally fine. He's ready to go. We did an MRI with him yesterday. It showed very positive signs that he's healing incredibly well, almost completely. So, you know, we're getting ready to ramp things up. He will not be available for tomorrow, but I think that he's showing, like he always has, a real good ability to recover from muscle injuries. So I think that having his private physio here has been very helpful, and the concentration on his body's needs every day. And so we're really hopeful that over the next days and week that we can accelerate things and give him a chance to contribute here soon. And Moise has made incredible progress over the past month and certainly over the last week. And it made the decision relatively easy that we should keep him in the group, and he'll be ready if called upon tomorrow.
So it is official. That is Canada's roster. We did know that they had until 3 p.m. Eastern today to make any final changes. Moise Bombito making that roster. And, of course, Jesse Marsch saying he's available for tomorrow. What we don't know, of course, is will he get the start or not. But let's head on over to Toronto Stadium, powered by General Mills. Christian Jack on location there. And, KJ, I do want to start with the Moise Bombito news because there was some reports that maybe he would be out. Jesse Marsch wanted to slow everything down and say, hold on a second. So he is in. What do you make of that?
Well, it is the biggest news of the day. You know, it's been a tale of different Fridays, as I said before. You know, ultimately, 2 weeks ago today, it was in Charlotte where we were announced that Moise Bombito was in the World Cup roster. And at that moment in that city, Moise Bombito told me that he was going to be 100% ready for the opening game. 1 week ago today, we were in Montreal, and Moise Bombito was coming off playing in a monsoon for 30 minutes in Edmonton, where he limped off and it didn't look good. And following that report the next day, many reports out there said that he was out of the World Cup. Jesse Marsch then landed here in Toronto on Sunday and just quashed those rumors very quickly to give him an opportunity. But many people thought it was slim at best. But now we're hearing that Moise Bombito is speedily recovering a lot quicker than many people expected. And when Jesse Marsch says that player is available to play as early as potentially on Friday, that's a massive story. It's a massive story. Look, do I expect him to play? I don't. But he did go on to give a timeline when he's not really given a lot of timelines before, and say that he could be available as early as playing from the start next week. So that would be the Qatar game. So, look, we all know that this is a position where Moise Bombito is, I think, significantly better than everybody else who can play in that position. And even if it's not Bosnia-Herzegovina and it's not Qatar, maybe it's Switzerland, maybe it's not. But if this team's going to go somewhere, the fact that Moise Bombito might be able to play in a big knockout match, I think is truly significant now.
Yeah, KJ, it's Wheels. I'm shocked by this, to be honest with you. One, this was a very serious injury that he experienced, KJ. Back in October, a double leg break. That takes a long time to recover from. And based on the evidence of seeing him play in Edmonton, it was a battle. It was 30 minutes of pain. And the image of him limping off, even as of training yesterday, significant wrapping around his leg. I think there was considerable thought that maybe he shouldn't be even trying at this point for the betterment of the player. So could this just be a product of having a 26-man squad, KJ, and the fact that he's staying loyal to a very important player within the room, and maybe perhaps now there's a little bit of gamesmanship at play? Because I mean, he's played 30 minutes of football since October. I'm just trying to be realistic here, KJ.
Yeah, no, I understand. I don't think there's a loyalty. I think Jesse Marsch understands the value of the World Cup, that he can't carry players. I do agree with you in a sense that, look, if this was the previous roster restrictions of 23 players, we wouldn't be having this conversation. He's essentially right now a fifth centre-back, and I think we'll go into the game tomorrow. We'll see if he's needed. But, look, it was a leg fracture, but it also was October. And Jesse Marsh has compared a little bit of that to the recovery of Tajon Buchanan, who came back after 4 months. You know, we are now in June, and this happened in October last year. We had Nice say that he expected him to play in March, and he never did. We had them say he expected him to play in April, he never did. And then they said they expected him to play in May, and he never did either. So, you know, this has gone on a little bit too long now. He should have recovered at that moment. Of course, the Edmonton scenario was not ideal for him to get the knock there and get the setback. And obviously, there's been reports out for a reason from legitimate sources that have said in the past, not from us, but have said that they felt that people were telling them that he was out of the World Cup for protection himself. So, look, it's a watch this space moment for me. It's a scenario-based moment. And if Canada can find a way, let's just say to cruise, it's a strong word, but cruise into the next couple of games to get through and get into the knockout stages, I don't think we'll be talking about Moise Bombito for a couple of weeks.
No, and if he doesn't start tomorrow, I mean, that is a big loss and something that's already been confirmed. Christian, of course, is Alphonso Davies, the captain. We already know he's not going to be in that first game, but you've been watching him at training. A lot of people keeping their fingers crossed that he can be available at some point during the group stage, if not at least, you know, if and when Canada makes it to the knockout stage. How is he progressing?
Well, I mean, whenever I've watched trading this week, it's always been side sessions. Canada come out together at a certain time. They kick the ball around. You know, this is the media. You get about 15 minutes to record all your B-roll and all your news stories that you need to do. A lot of those 15 minutes have happened without Alphonso Davies at all. In fact, one day he came out legitimately the moment the 15 minutes closed the session. We all packed up and he walked out. That was on Wednesday of this week. So Tuesday we saw him, Monday we saw him, he trained again today. There's not any ball work right now. There's no physical contact with his teammates. They have to huddle at the start of the sessions, and a lot of the time he's not involved in that. He has his own personal trainer here from Bayern, and I think that's significant. This is a club decision that is obviously supported by the International Federation as well. So there's a lot to get into on this. One thing, Gareth, that I picked up on in the presser was that in a time when he hasn't given timelines, Jesse Marsh, he said, I just wish that the tournament would start 2 weeks later so we could get more out of him. So for me, that hints, I don't know what you think, but that hints for us again to maybe be on the Moise Bombito timeline. But I don't think we'll be expecting to see Alphonso Davies against Qatar either.
That was my main headline coming out of the press conference, to be honest with you. I think it was the most truthful thing that was said, that the team might be ready in terms of spirit. The players who are fit are ready to hit the ground running. I just don't think that simply pertains just to Alphonso Davies or just to Moise Bombito. You can make the argument that Ali Ahmed, Jacob Schaffelberg, Alfie Jones, Richie Larea, Promise David could all probably use a couple more weeks of preparation, making sure that they had match fitness. It's not just about one game here. World Cups are difficult. They're going to fly across the country, play 2 games in Vancouver after this. A performance based upon adrenaline, based upon 4 years of the waiting coming tomorrow. I mean, it's a big deal, but there's 2 more group games after that that could be incredibly important. And that's my biggest concern right now, KJ, is just the status of all of these players. Whether it's Alphonso Davies. By the way, I think Canada Soccer has done a really nice job making this less of a headline than it could be. Well, any other nation, when they're missing their top player going to a World Cup, but he's still in and about the team, it's like the main headline all the time. Alphonso Davies has been away for so long right now, I think people kind of forget a little bit how important he could be to this group. But it's all the other players, KJ, like the 2-week element, that's what sticks out to me. Are they ready to go tomorrow? There's expectations around this team. It's a home World Cup, KJ. They should be expected to beat sides like Bosnia. But based upon circumstances, I think most people are in wait-and-see mode right now.
Yeah, I understand that. I still think they should be expected to beat Bosnia-Herzegovina as well. I understand as a nation why we're hesitant to go that far. And if for anybody from that great country and what they've been through wants to have a go at me for it and say we're underestimating them, let them. But we're allowed to. This is a home World Cup. Okay, we watched Mexico destroy South Africa today. You know what? That happens a lot. You go back throughout the entire, just this century alone. South Korea, early goal in 2002, go on and win that game comfortably. Germany, the same in 06. South Africa got their moment in 2010. Score goals and have their moment. Russia, completely written off, was a national disgrace before 2018, and they started on fire and scored all those goals in the opening game as well. So I think as a nation, we're allowed to ask ourselves, can they go out there and win this game without disrespecting their opponent? I understand what you're saying about the injuries, but internally, there doesn't seem to be any discussion about that. Ali Ahmed, Jacob Schaffelberg have been back in full training for 3 days. Does that mean they can physically play 90 minutes? No. Does that mean they're available? Yes. So I think it's a build-up, slow process for some of these players. But the storyline around Canada the last 18 months has been their ability to strengthen the talent pool. And now you look at players like Nico Segur, who's probably not going to start here tomorrow. He's played more minutes than Alistair Johnston for Canada over the last 15 months. The same you could say about someone like Nathan Saliba and Ali Ahmed and other players, Promise David. Now, these players weren't even considered that much 15 months ago. So I think that he has the ability now to look down his team and go, I've got players that can make a difference here. And I think the 11 speaks for itself, guys. I don't know what you think, but it looks like it's a pretty obvious 11 at this point. And I think with that 11, Canada in their seeking moments, as you do in the World Cup, I think there's enough players on that pitch for them to win this match.
The other conversation, I think that the one thing that this country collectively has is belief in these players. I mean, a lot of them have become household names. Their demeanor, their style of play won over so many fans and just casual onlookers, KJ, at Copa America. I don't think there's any question there. What about style of play? Because lots of football people that I talk to still question what the style of play here is from Jesse Marsch and where this team is at right now heading into a World Cup. They're a very difficult team to beat. There's no doubt about that, despite making an insane amount of changes across their back line. They don't concede a lot of goals either, but it's in attack, in scoring goals. In their last 8 games, they've just won 2 of them, and they've stepped up in competition. So I just wonder, like, what is going to be Canada's style of play, and is it good enough to be effective here in Group B?
Well, I thought that was quite interesting to watch last week against a weakened Ireland on Friday, and the way Canada played in that first 45 minutes with the ball. I thought there was a lot to like. It's probably the best we've seen them play since Honduras at home last year in Vancouver when we were there for the Gold Cup. But that's important because, yes, I know Ireland were a weaker side, but I think both the Bosnians and Qatar next week are going to let Canada have possession. And to answer your question, what has been the major struggle for this team, and they've openly admitted it, and they've worked in training this week about it, is breaking down teams when they have possession. You know, this is the biggest problem that they've got throughout their tenure here is, okay, a lot of their goals have come in fast transitions, win the ball back, and then score goals very quickly. And I think with this style of play, with these two opponents, are they going to be able to break these teams down and find that moment? That's where players like Buchanan, that's where players like Kone, who can be difference makers, they can feed the likes of Jonathan David and Kyle Larin, become so pivotal and so crucial in this. And it is a question for Jesse Marsch. For all of the great things that he's done with this program, and there's a long list of them, it is now his job as the head coach to do that. And he's been working a lot with them in training, but it's his job now to be able to not necessarily win the press conference, not necessarily win the battles of the PR. It's his job now, as he said, to get the best out of those attacking players to try and score goals. And if they can do that here, I think it sets them up nicely for the second game with that kind of spirit that they've already got goals. But if they don't do it here, this will be another ongoing conversation for another 6 days until they get to a must-win game, and it will be a must-win if they don't do it here tomorrow against Qatar next week in Vancouver.
Yeah, I want to continue with these hard conversations here, KJ, because come tomorrow, everyone's going to be feeling great. We're going to be feeling inspired, and that is the moment to do so. But this is where we need to get some stuff off of our chest here. And you talk about the attack. So are you curious to see how Jesse Marsch is going to deploy Jonathan David as well? Like, is he going to get him further up that pitch to be a little bit more of that 9? Do you think he's still going to stick to Kyle Larin being that? Because that's been a question as well for a lot of fans. When are we going to see more of a prolific Jonathan David score? So what kind of position can he get in to do that? And then on the flanks, how important are Tajon Buchanan and Liam Miller with that type of speed and that service?
I think crucial. You know, again, they're not getting the service, they being Kyle Larin and Jonathan David, that they need. You know, strikers score goals before they happen. And when you see them, when I was sitting pitch side in Montreal, you can see them getting into spaces and you can see them getting ready and they're thinking this ball's going in the net and they don't arrive. That is not a direct criticism of those two players, Liam Miller and Tajon Buchanan. They could win a World Cup game for Canada here on Friday. But the facts are the facts. They're not getting the ball in quick enough a lot of the time. They're spending an extra time to get the touches. They're not being crisp. And David and Larin are sometimes being left out to dry. Now, if they can clean that up, which is a big emphasis this week in training, if they can get that ball in and they can be quicker, or if Kone can play that ball in quicker, they will get their moments. They will get their opportunities, and one of them will score. That's the way that these players are. I'm a firm believer of that. They can show it at the club level, and they've shown it time and time again for Canada. That's why I believe those two are going to get picked to play up front. I don't quite understand this conversation about where to play Jonathan David. The facts are the facts again. I'll say it again. He's played in this position every game for every game he's been available. He's a 10 for Jesse Marsh, and he plays there. Jesse Marsh has said repeatedly in interviews he wants him to get more touches. He grows into the game. He feels it. The key now is for him, when he gets in those spaces, is to be fed the ball. I think he will get those opportunities. It's clear he is not at the peak of his powers. It's clear that he's not the Jonathan David that we saw at club form 12 months, 18 months ago. But we also know how clever he is and how smart he is and how quickly he can turn that on again.
Yeah, I just drives me a little bit crazy when I see him deeper than Richie Larea at times in track. I want him up closer to the... That's the sentiment, KJ. People know what he can do when he's in and around the area, making those great runs in behind the back line. I think that's what people want to see more. We got to talk about what tomorrow's game means. KJ and all three of us together have done World Cups before together, and there's mathematical equations that allow teams to move forward in the competition. That's why tomorrow, and the first game for a lot of teams in this tournament, it's a not-lose scenario. But if you dream big and think about what this might mean, a Canada win in their opening match on home soil, don't you feel like it's almost a must-win? Like, mathematically it isn't, but for all the vibes and what it can do for this group and for what history in the country, it just seems more significant than being pragmatic and going out and picking up a point.
How are you feeling, KJ?
I completely agree with that too. Look, I think if we're sitting here tomorrow night talking about a draw or a loss, I think that'll be considered as a national missed opportunity for the sport in this country. You know, it just feels ready. And I've been here many times, as have you two been here, and we're so blessed to be here. And I said it this week, and I'll say it again. We've been on the verge of many what-if moments over the years for Canadian soccer. Some people are blessed enough to go back to 1986 and Tony Waiters and the boys, right? Went to the World Cup. What if they scored? What if they went to their moment? They got their moment. They didn't get it, right? We can go all the way through to what happened past that, the Atiba Hutchinson goal against the U.S. that was disgracefully taken away from this nation. What if the 8 goals against Honduras when we conceded that? What if the 8 goals didn't happen and this country became a laughingstock around football again, right? What if in the Gold Cup they were able to pull through in 2019 instead of conceding 3 goals in the second half against Haiti? A semi-final, Hector Herrera, 99th minute winner, 23, a final, the Judah Winner Trophy, and they lose and don't play well against the US. Those what-if moments. It's why I did my essay today on if. Forget what if. Just think about if. And that's, for me, is what's so important about this moment. Yes, we could talk about the grand scheme of a point. Oh, they're in good position. They want to go through the group. It's more than just that. This is a home World Cup. We saw Mexico win again today. They became the 16th home nation to win their first game in a World Cup out of 23. That's a massive percentage, and that's the side of the number that Canada are on right now. 16 out of 23. Only Qatar, and I was there when they were poor, and that's not a good reference point. The only team ever to host a World Cup and lose their first game. So yes, of course, it feels big, and it feels a moment to go out there and grab the 3 points to help them get through the group. But more than that, captivate a country and then just make it if now instead of what if.
I just want to run through a brick wall now.
I'm just going to skip forward to when, KJ. When. I'm going to one-up your riff and deliver you a when. How's that?
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's go. You know, we're talking here, and we're all so blessed. You know, I mean, we're talking on a Thursday night. The three of us have worked together for so many years, and we've done so many games. This is the biggest game. It is the biggest game ever for this men's program. We've worked on Women's World Cups. I covered it. I went all across the country and saw what that did in 2015 for that country and that sport. And now we've got a professional league and how marvelous it was. But we can't lose sight of this. We can't downplay it anymore. It's the biggest game ever for this team and for this men's program, and it's happening right here. It's the moment where opportunity, and the opportunity is there because we got a home World Cup, has met preparation. And the preparation is that it's the greatest team this country has ever produced. At the same time, we've produced the best team ever, and we're playing a World Cup at home. Go and win.
Yep. It is going to be a special day.
For the win.
And it is, just less than 24 hours, and we'll have our answer to see how Canada does. KJ, great stuff. Thank you so much. That's Christian Jack outside of Toronto Stadium, where we are hoping history will be made tomorrow. Let's take a look at that projected lineup. And so right on so many fronts there, where this is the best Canadian team we have seen in a long time. I'm going to try not to be glass half empty, Wheels, because, of course, but you do want to see Alphonso Davies in there, Moise Bombito, right? Like, there's the players that are still dealing with injury. However, the glass half full is Canada, for the first time, I think, at least in a very, very, very long time, has the depth.
They do, but you are missing those some really important pieces. And that's what's so interesting, is that on surface of it, you look at these names and they tick a lot of boxes.
Yep.
There's a lot that you like about each and every one of these players here. The injuries are a factor. Like, you cannot ignore them based on World Cup precedents and history. Mm-hmm. Going into a tournament with this many injured players or players that aren't match fit is a factor, as is the team's form coming into this game. KJ said it, and he's right. Bosnia and Herzegovina and Qatar are going to give Canada the ball and say, break us down. This group collectively has had a very difficult time doing that in recent fixtures when they've stepped up and played better competition. There's a lot of reason to like their chances tomorrow. And of course, a win wouldn't surprise anyone. I think that is the outside expectation. Mm-hmm. But people that are in the weeds are saying, does this team need an extra 2 weeks? Is this first game of the World Cup coming at the best possible time to get the most out of this group? And for me, that answer is definitively no. That's why there's question marks all over this. And it's not being negative, it's being a realist. And the country, although fair enough, get excited. There's so much to be excited about. Expectations need to be appropriately set as well. Because if you think that this team's going to go in just because they're playing in Toronto tomorrow and walk over a very well-versed Bosnia side who went through a playoff, 2 you're in or you're out games to reach this point, in Wales, then against Italy, you're kidding yourselves. This is going to be a war. It's going to be a scrap, and we'll see who's up for it tomorrow.
Yeah, the opponent is going to be very tough. You are right about that. And Jesse Marsh loves to be able to pounce once depossessing the other team. But if you have possession, it is a completely different ball game.